All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 26th Ramblestream with yours truly, Richard Worsham, founder and lead designer here at Janus Motorcycles. As you may be able to tell, I got to turn my jacket on. As you may be able to tell, it is cold here in northern Indiana. And this old building is pretty chilly. As always, let me know how the volume is coming through. I'm actually showing that this is clipping a little bit. So if the volume is not high enough for y'all, you might need to turn your own volume up because I'm showing that it's quite high here. Yes, it is a chilly Monday here in northern Indiana. We were down to -8 degrees last night. I had some pipes that almost froze, but I was able to put a heater down in the basement and a fan on it and salvage it. So no burst pipes. But seeing as it is cold, I figured we could talk a little bit about motorcycles and the wintertime and dig into that a little bit. So we'll do that here in a minute after we read some poetry and check out some comments. So first off, I'll go ahead and start off. Richard, Halcyon 250 number 68, Goshen, Indiana, and I'm sipping on some Evan Williams, the bourbon of choice around here and in Virginia, where I'm from. Cheers. All right, let's see who's on and if y'all can hear me. Oh yeah, sound is fine. Thank you, NW Metal Bug. Okay, we got first here, Dan Rademski says hello. And then we got Bob from South Dakota. He says, Halcel? Maybe hello or Halcyona. I'm not sure, one or the other. Schrader Boys TV says hello. Bob Benstead, Halcyon 450 number 230, Sturgis, South Dakota. Kelly Chrisman, Halcyon 450 number 236 out of Virginia, drinking a soda. Good to see you, Kelly. And Pete Marino. Hey, Pete. 450 Halcyon 156, Radcliffe, Kentucky. He also happens to have a Griffin, if I'm not mistaken. Pete, as of last year's rally, had the highest mileage on a 450. I think he had broken 20, and I think he's broken more than that by this point. So I'm sure, Pete, you could teach us a thing or two about cold weather riding. But you'll have to listen to me because I got the microphone. We got Mike Peterson. Mike Peterson, Halcyon 250 number 992. Good to see you, Mike. There's me. Tim here. He says, Bike 113 450. Excited about all the new product offerings. Burns Harbor. Nice. What are you sipping on, Tim? Schrader Boy says, I keep dreaming of one of these bikes. I live very close to the shop in Goshen. Been following the progress since 2016. Where do you live? Are you here in Goshen? If you are, stop on in if you haven't already. Love to show you the bikes. Jack Coleman, hello all. Halcyon 250 number 1037, still in Goshen. Hopefully, Olive will be home to Georgia soon. Fantastic. Mark McGee, Anna Cortez, Washington, as always. Halcyon 250 number 997. Good afternoon, all. Ginger ale today. Good to see you, Mark. Brent Bryan, Griffin 145, scheduled in February, drinking Urkel, a fine Czech Pilsner. Confed Yank says, howdy from Central North Carolina, 100th anniversary Road King, sipping some Pepsi. Or Pepsi, maybe? Anyone ramble over Motorcycle Destinations website? I have not seen that. You should post up a link or something. Steve Quick, Halcyon 250 988 in Hurst, Texas, drinking a nice Cabernet. Nice, good to see you, Steve. NW Metal Bug, hi. Jay from Oregon, Halcyon 250 number 164, black coffee tonight. And I do apologize, all of y'all, that I have to use your handle because I can't remember everyone's name. I remember names, but not necessarily in relation to your handle. So Jay, okay, I'll try and remember that. At least those of you who are always on here, I ought to remember your names. Confed also, please don't forget to hit like, y'all. Nice. Yes. Thank you all for reminding me. If you like the video, thumbs it up and subscribe. It helps us all out. Spread the word. We get more ramblers. And what doesn't want more ramblers, right? We got Confetti Yank. Also, please don't forget. Oh yeah, repeating myself. Also, don't forget to hit the like button. Perry Ford, sipping a little noble whiskey from Mike Rowe. Nice. Jim Bledsoe. Hi all from Youngstown, Ohio. Drinking a Yingling Light, 450, 163. A Yingling from Pennsylvania, is that what you said? Or Ohio? Wait, Ohio, not Pennsylvania, but still, pretty Ohio drink. Charles McGagan, hola from Eastern Maryland. Halcyon 250 number 454. Snowy and balmy 32. So y'all are getting some cold weather too. Good to see you, Charles. Lawrence Ray in Louisville, Kentucky. 450, 242, almost in the works. Awesome. Fantastic. Ben Ferrer, Halcyon 450 number 43. Poppy. Good to see you, Ben. Multifarious. Oh, and I just did my thing where I scroll too fast and lose all the comments. Multifarious says, hello, Richard. Well, how are you doing, Multifarious? Nicholas G, and I now know how to pronounce your your handle. Good to see you. Good to see you also signed up for the forum recently. Welcome to the Owners Forum. Griffin, number 200 on order. Southeastern Connecticut. Fantastic. Gary Smith. Good to see you, Gary. Hello from East Lansing, Michigan. He has a Halcyon 250 number 79, Halcyon 450 number 3, and Phoenix 250 number 79. Always good to see you, Gary. I bet, is it colder up there than it is down here? I bet it is. Jim Winters, happy Monday from the Indiana Dunes. 450 number 150 and Phoenix 78. Enjoying a nice red, trying to keep warm. Yeah, me too, trying to keep warm. David Husky. Hey, David. Good to see you. Halcyon 250 number JM 138 in Las Cruces, New Mexico. Martini this evening. Nice. And thank you for Indie Metal Bug for your sound confirmation. All the thumbs up there. You too, Jack. Old School. Yes. Good to see you, Old School. Greetings, Richard. I got buried 6 feet of snow, and now my team playing to continue at a snow-filled stadium. Lots of emojis. It's 12 degrees. Nice day for a ride. Not. Yeah. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about some cold weather riding this evening. He says, Old School from Buffalo. Damn cold and a tin of snow. Halcyon 994, 250. Good to see you. Russell Peters, Detlef. Russ Peters, Kentucky, working in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Oh, you're up in our neck of the woods then. Johnny the Wheel. Hey, Richard. John from Colorado here. Big fan already. Bike forthcoming. Well, welcome. If this is your first Ramblestream, I hope you enjoy it. It promises to be very unprepared for, but a good one. I've been busy today. Actually, today I've been spent the morning down at our fabrication shop. I am relearning some of the pre-assemblies for the 450 fabrication. We're bringing on a new fabrication hand starting next Monday. And in order to smooth out the transition to a new higher training takes a lot of time. And I'm going to, since I've already done it in the past, about this time last year, I was doing a lot of pre-assemblies for the 450. It won't take me too long to learn them again. And then I will be able to help train the new hand. And it's always nice to, get in there and remember what we're doing here, building motorcycles. Get a little dirty. So, yeah. Riggedy Alps, greetings from Massachusetts. Halcyon 450 number 234, sipping on Founders Backwoods. You're drinking some of our beer up there in Massachusetts. Founders, great. Founders is from Grand Rapids, Michigan, about 2 hours up the road. Roger Junt, hello from Sturgis, South Dakota. Halcyon 250 number 1018, hoping for riding weather. Well, y'all probably have it pretty cold too, I imagine. Let me know when you and Bob Benstead can ride together. That'll be a good riding in the heart of Harley-Davidson land. Well, it's not really. It's only Harley-Davidson land for a bit out of the year, right? Out there in Sturgis. Mike Peterson went to Del Mar from that, but I really you know more, Mike, about what happened than I do. So fill us in. Tell us how things went. Let's see. Somebody calling our service line? Here, 1 second. I didn't think the service line rang at this time of night, but anyway, somebody's phone's going off, and it's not mine. So yeah, tell us how things were, and did you go to the show or to the demo day at Viewpoint Brewing, which was yesterday? We got Brett here. Hello from Metro Detroit, considering a Janus. Well, Brett, welcome. These folks here, a lot of them, as you can tell in the comments, have a bike that they're very proud of, and this is a great place to ask questions. So if you have any questions, post them up, and either I will get to them or somebody else will. So this is why we do this, is to, well, it's not just to make sales. This is more about hanging out together and just enjoying talking about rambling, but it is a great place to ask questions about the rambling experience that we espouse here at Janus Motorcycles. Ron, evening from Florida, just got back from a day-long ride. Oh, you can just rub it in our face. Rub it in our face. Joel Yonda. Joel from Kansas City. Joel, it was good talking to you last week. And if you haven't seen them, Joel, I'm not sure we posted them yet. I passed them on to the social media crowd here, but Joel got some beautiful bikes or photographs taken of his 450 down in the West Bottoms near Blip Roasters, which is a great little coffee shop, motorcycle themed coffee shop in Kansas City that we did a show at. Man, it's been a number of years now, but I still have fond memories of Kansas City. So good to see you, Joel. Jim Bledsoe says, how about putting a 450 Origin on The Price is Right in a showcase showdown? That's a good idea. We should do that. Schrader Boys TV. I am in Edwardsburg. My teenage son and I got a shop tour last summer. Someday. I've been very tempted at the new line that you just came out with. Great. Well, let us know how we can help. We're always interested in getting folks on bikes. Old School says, progress, windscreen for 250. You look at Lucite over Lexan. I should look maybe Memphis Shades, leader in the industry of windshields. Yeah, Memphis Shades are good. Lots of different good options out there. Our progress at this point is that if you all remember, I have two windscreens that I'm working on simultaneously right now. One of them is the larger windscreen that's going to really provide protection. The primary reason that I designed that windscreen was because of my experience riding the Halcyon 450, which is considerably faster than the 250, and at the speeds and maybe the seating position, which is almost identical to the 250, but maybe it's a little different. I think it's primarily the speeds. You really get a lot of wind resistance, and it pulls you back on your body. And I found that I would really like a windscreen on that bike in a way that I never really felt like I had to have one on the 250. So that windscreen is still in the works. We are very busy this week. We have a big meeting this weekend with our management. We're getting everybody together, and so we're preparing for that. But we have some Lexan that we're going to cut out. Chase, our kind of how would you describe Chase? Chase makes a lot of things here at Janus Motorcycles and figures a lot of stuff out here. He's going to be cutting those out of Lexan very shortly. The smaller windscreen, however, which I'm calling the fly screen, it's based on Brough Superior kind of style, really small windscreen. The laser cut parts for that are, I I think they're ready. I got a report today. If not, they're very close. And those will be coming in, and then we'll be able to have the whole bracket system for that ready to go. That little one mounts to the headlight ears. So it's much smaller, but I think it'll look very elegant and very much in that style of the Halcyon. It'll look very trim on the Halcyon, 250 or 450. Confetti Yank says, dodging potholes in Michigan is great proof of how nimble Janus is. Yes, indeed. Bob says, Roger Junt and I ride all the time together. Sturgis is the city of all riders. Fantastic. Well, great. I'm glad to hear that. Ron did get rained on a bit. Oh, and yeah, I bet you did. Yeah. Go Bills says old school. Johnny the Wheel says, what? No wind tunnel experiments at Janus? Yeah, that'll be really cool. Someday we'll get a wind tunnel. No, we road test our stuff here. But Confetti Yank says, but my RK with ape hanger bars, so full upright sitting is fun at 80, 90 miles an hour with the wind. Yeah, I bet. Okay. All right, we got through some comments. And next up, we're going to... Oh, yeah. Poem. We're going to do another one from our friend Wendell Berry, a rambler, if there ever was one, from his Mad Farmer Poems collection. And this one is called... Find it here. It's further back than I thought. Here we go. This is called, I thought it was auspicious for today for some reason. I don't know why. This is called The Mad Farmer, Flying the Flag of Rough Branch, Secedes from the Union. From the union of power and money, from the union of power and secrecy, from the union of government and science, from the union of government and art, from the union of science and money, from the union of ambition and ignorance, from the union of genius and war, from the union of outer space and inner vacuity, the mad farmer walks quietly away. There is only one of him, but he goes. He returns to the small country he calls home, his own nation small enough to walk across. He goes shadowy into the local woods and brightly into the local meadows and croplands. He goes to the care of neighbors. He goes to the care of neighbors. Into the care of neighbors. He goes to the potluck supper, a dish from each house for the hunger of every house. He goes into the quiet of early mornings, of days when he is not going anywhere. Calling his neighbors together into the sanctity of their lives, separate and together, in the one life of their commonwealth and home, in their own nation small enough for a story or song to travel across in an hour, he cries, "Come all ye conservatives and liberals who want to conserve the good things and be free. Come away from the merchants of big answers, whose hands are mettled with power, from the union of anywhere and everywhere, by the purchase of everything from everybody at the lowest price, and the sale of anything to anybody at the highest price, from the union of work and debt, work and despair, from the wage slavery of the helplessly well employed, from the union of self-gratification and self-annihilation, secede into care for one another and for the good gifts of heaven and earth. Come into the life of the body, the one body granted to you in all the history of time. Come into the body's economy, its daily work, and its replenishment at meal times and at night. Come into the body's thanksgiving, when it knows and acknowledges itself a living soul. Come into the dance of the community, joined in a circle, hand in hand, the dance of the eternal love of women and men for one another, and of neighbors and friends for one another. Always disappearing, always returning, calling his neighbors to return, to think again of the care of flocks and herds and gardens and fields and woodlots and forests and the uncut groves, calling them separately and together, calling and calling. He goes forever toward the long, restful evening and the croak of the night heron over the river at dark. It's a good way to secede. All right. What do we got next? I did want to mention, for those of you all who have not followed along or when it happened, about, was it 2018? I rode Halcyon 250 number 68 from San Francisco to New York City, following the track of George Wyman, first person across the United States on a motorized vehicle, which happened to be a motorcycle. And Rob Brooks over at Road Dirt magazine has thought it was a cool story, and so he's been featuring the retelling of the trip on at his magazine. And so look up roaddirt.tv is their website, and every month he's doing he's featuring one installment of the 6-day trip across the country. So check it out. We just published part 3. So it's a lot of fun. Let's see. Wintertime. We'll talk about winter since it's so cold and snowy here. We got about, maybe 5 or 6 inches starting Friday, and then the temperatures have just dropped, and it's going to stay cold for another week or two at least. I don't know. I haven't looked at the weather report past that, but it is going to be cold. So a good time to talk about being cold and riding motorcycles. Let's see what the comments say. Confed Yank says poem. Oh no! Did the Wi-Fi? What? We may have internet issues actually because of the snow. Let's see. Tell me if it's any better now. Did you all hear that? Or can you hear me now? We'll give it a second for y'all to comment up there. All good? Okay. Yeah, if you didn't catch it, that was a poem by the great agrarian Kentuckian Southern poet Wendell Berry, who is still alive and writing wonderful things all about all kinds of stuff. Check him out if you're not familiar with him already. All right, so let's go over to another screen just for fun. I thought this was really fun. This ad. I'm not sure what year this is from. Our good friend Mark Zweig, customer and actually the CFO here at Janus Motorcycles, big part of the team here, sent over this on our group text today he thought it was funny. It says, "I ride all winter, and here's the reason. I take the hazard out of winter riding with the greatest all-purpose motorcycle traction tire ever built, the Firestone Champion. The sensational gear grip tread of this amazing tire eliminates the danger of broadsiding and having your machine slide out from under you on sharp turns. The gear grip design is carried into the sidewall." Blah, blah, blah. And there it shows this guy riding his, looks like a Harley Davidson. Could be an Indian, actually. I don't even know my bikes. Y'all can correct me. It actually looks like an Indian. Yeah, it's an Indian. That's definitely an Indian. In the snow, which I don't think I'd take some Firestones in the snow, but maybe it was a big improvement in whenever this was 1950 something. All I can say to this guy is I would definitely keep those crash bars on the bike. All right, let's take a quick look at more comments here. Thank you all for commenting. Okay, feed is fine. Good. Maybe it's just somebody else's Wi-Fi. Oh, he was just yanking. Confed Yank was yanking. Wonderful. I'm glad everything came through. NW Metalbug says, I got caught in a snowstorm on a bike when I was in northern Idaho once. Not fun at all. Looks like late 1930s Indian. Yeah, I think you're right. It is maybe earlier than I was thinking. Earlier than the 50s. Yeah. Will the Halcyon 450 have adequate charging capacity for heated grips and heated gear, says Bob. Great question. Yes, it will. In our experience, well, the 250, I can tell you, off the top of my head, I don't know the charging capacity on the 450. I know it's as good as the 250, and the 250 is the same as a KLR. It's about 215, would that be watts at full RPM. So it comes down after the different RPMs you're cruising at, but more than enough to run. I wouldn't run like grips, vest, and auxiliary lights and a bunch of other stuff, but you could definitely ride with a heated vest or heated grips, and it would have no problem at all. And that's 2 of the 250 as well. Mike Evans, Southside, Alabama. AL, yeah, I think that's what that was. Number 730. Good to see you, Mike. Dan says front leaf spring suspension is Indian. Yeah, I should have known that. Yep. Well, I did. I caught on eventually there. Gary says, I winter ride on my Ural, but I don't know if I would do it on one of my Janus bikes. I have a friend that rides year-round in Michigan. Yes, in a Ural, it would be a blast to ride in the snow. I used to, when I lived in South Bend, which is about 30 miles west of here, there was a guy that would show up at the bar on a snowy night on his Ural, and it was really cool. Jack says, check out his crash bars. Oops, engine guard. Yeah. Kedved Yank, Indian went out in 1952, so it'd be prior to that. Yep, you got it. So my guess is between 38 and 52. How does the heated jacket you're using, maybe you're asking how it works? Oh, it's great. Maybe I'm out of power though. Let's see. Yeah, I've run it out of power. This is my first time I've ever had a heated battery operated gear. It runs off of a Milwaukee M12 battery. It's a Milwaukee vest. So you just plug it in and stick it in your pocket. It's pretty cool. It has 3 heat settings. When I got it, I was thinking, well, my wife got it for me for Christmas, but definitely thinking about cold weather riding. Dan says, the thing that keyboard warriors get concerned about is idle electrical output. Not like that's ever the case. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, if you're going to sit out in the snow and idle your motorcycle, you're going to have less charging capacity at idle than you will at higher RPMs. But in my experience, when I get really cold, it's when the wind is blowing over me at higher RPMs. So I've never really seen that a major problem. And as long as you're riding on it, even if you're stopping every once in a while, it has ample wattage to take care of that stuff. So, yeah. Speaking of, let's just go ahead and dig into my little talk. So this is I'm going to talk about something that I did a video on. I think it was last year, although it might have been the year before that. I can't remember. It's a pretty low. I'm going to see if this works. Well, I posted a link in the comments there, and I think you have to actually copy and paste it. I will post that if I can figure it out into the description of the video, and that way you all can check it out. But that's a video that I did, and Jordan was kind enough to kind of patch it together and make what he could out of it. But it was me recording myself in my garage for a cold day, and talking about winter riding. And so I'm going to kind of just do a short version of that, talk a little bit about winter riding gear, and winter riding kind of preparation, because we have a motorcycle. We've invested some resources in that motorcycle, and why would we not want to get everything we can out of that and enjoy it as much as we can? So what I'm going to be talking about is not so much riding in snow or ice, because I don't really recommend that. Even though here's some more fun pictures for y'all. We'll blow these up here. make them a little bigger. That is a Halcyon 450 up against, and I'm not actually, again, it looks like a Harley engine from here. Yeah, that's a Harley. On ice up in Minnesota, I believe, last year. And there you see it. It is possible to ride in the ice and snow, but there are some things you need to be able to do that, including tire studs, which we'll talk about briefly. But what we're primarily going to talk about this evening is not so much riding in the ice and snow as cold weather riding, because ice and snow really are not ideal for two-wheeled vehicles. There are things you can do to be more safe in the ice and snow on a two-wheeled vehicle, but I'm not necessarily going to say that we all need to be going out and doing that all the time. This is a section of a Halcyon 450 tire, and I don't know if y'all can see on here. Those are tire studs. And they actually have a specific pattern that I've used when I installed them. Like some of them in the middle go this way, and then the other ones go this way on the sides. I'm not sure how effective the angles are, but people swear by it. Of course, when you get further over on the angle, you want the angle to be in the same direction as the tire. But these were some tire studs that I purchased from a company in Wisconsin or Illinois, and I figured they knew what they were doing for ice racing. And you can install these in your 450 tire or probably your 250 tire as long as it's thick enough, and it will add amazing amount of grip. Of course, they're gonna be destroyed if you try and ride it on the asphalt for very long, but that is an option. Right. So, without further ado, let's talk a little bit about not so much the ice racing, which is really fun to see. This is on a frozen lake, as the kind of riding that you and I are going to be doing if you have the nerve or the wherewithal in the winter, or the off season as some people call it, without breaking the bank or breaking your motorcycle or breaking yourself, which is also important. So let's talk about, first of all, Janus and the winter. So as you know, first of all, the 250 line is carbureted. And so one thing that you will find, and I've talked about this at length, but the 250 carbureted line is a little cold-blooded when it's starting up. It is not lean when it's running, but when it's starting up, the place where where the homologation rules, emissions rules had an effect on your experience is when it's warming up. It's a cold-blooded, and so you do have to baby that throttle when you warm it up. And on a cold day, like last week, I was riding my 250. All over Christmas, I was riding it a good bit into work, and it will take longer to warm up. It takes a while. Usually, the best thing I do is I let it warm up. I let the oil get moving, maybe 1 or 2 minutes, and then riding it is the fastest way to get it warmed up. And that's true even in the summertime. A brand new bike, they're usually a little bit more cold-blooded, and the best way to get it warmed up is to ride it. So let the oil warm up a little bit before you hammer it, but the best way to get it warmed up is to ride the bike. However, just be aware that in the wintertime, you're going to need to use that choke, and it's going to take a little while longer than normal to warm up. Of course, on the 450, which many of you all have, you're not going to have that issue. It's going to auto-enrich. So it has an enrichment cycle, which I believe is about a 60-second auto-enrichment that's handled by the ECU. It will run just fine. You will not have to worry about it. Now, one thing you will notice, though, is that especially in warmer weather when it's not that cold and the bike doesn't have trouble starting, it's still going to go through that auto-enrichment. And if you hammer the throttle during that initial enrichment cycle, it will kind of like bog out on you. And that's just because it's too rich. It's auto-enriching too much for that application. But in the wintertime, it's gonna be your friend. So you're going to need to use the choke. And then there's some other things that are going to help that bike start up easily. Number one is going to be your battery. I will say this morning, I drive a diesel Volkswagen wagon and manual transmission. And it does not like it when it's cold, those diesels. And so you have to let the glow plugs warm up, and then it just, even I have a fairly new battery in it. We replaced it this year. It just does not like to start. And so you have to put anti-gel treatment in the fuel. And usually when it's down in the single digits, it will be okay. But it does rough start. So same thing is true of cars, but on a motorcycle, a gasoline motorcycle, it doesn't matter. The battery is going to not operate. It's going to be colder, so the cold cranking amps are going to be lower, and it's going to have a harder time starting, just like my Volkswagen this morning. And so it's very important. If you have a weak battery, it's not going to work, even if it works fine the rest of the year. So it's very important to maintain your batteries. We recommend keeping your lead acid or your lithium battery on a tender. Of course, the lithium, both of them, you want to keep them on a smart charger with the correct mode for what kind of battery it is, and it will make sure that your battery is being maintained at the optimal level, and it'll give you the best chance of starting that thing up in the cold and being just fine. The other thing would be fuel, and because it gets colder, you're just not going to be riding it probably as much as you are in the summertime. Well, we can just get that out of the way. I don't care how much you like to ride. You're not riding as much likely in the wintertime just because of how cold it is and how there is snow and ice out there. So the fuel can go bad over the winter. So it's important to treat your fuel if you are really not riding it very often, or drain your carburetor if you have a carburetor, or just ride it regularly, or as regularly as you can. Which is what I do. Let's see. We got fuel, battery. You got your tires. Making sure that the tire pressure in your tires is adequate. As the air temperature drops, the pressure in your tires goes down, and you want to make sure that you have adequate tire pressure. Oil depends on when you change your oil. Some people change their oil in the spring every year. If it's been a while, I sometimes change my oil in the fall and in the spring if I'm riding it a lot, because it's just a matter of how many miles you have on it. And it's not just a matter of actually how many miles, it's how long it's been sitting. So if it's time to do it, the oil will break down whether you're using it in some ways, or even if you're not using it, that oil will oxidize and break down over time. And those are some basic things that you can do to maintain the bike and make sure that it's going to be ready to go whenever you want it in the wintertime. The last one would be the classic MSF, Motorcycle Safety Foundation, T-Clocks inspection list, which you can find it online. Just type in T-Clocks. Let me see if I have it in here. What the basic. Yeah, I've got it in here. Well, I've retitled it because it's a trademarked. But basically, it's a quick list of checking all the things like tires, gauges, all the drive chain, all that stuff. And so look it up online. T-Clocks, T-CLOKS, I believe is the abbreviation. And it's a great, quick inspection list that you can go over your bike. It's equally, if not more important, to do that in the wintertime because of the fact that your bike is cold. So, all right. At this point, we'll look at some comments real quick and go over some gear. Confed says, just rev it up if it seems like a problem. Then you'll keep your bike warm also. Yep. Great. Carl Lincoln. I run Kanetsu. Oh, yeah. Kanetsu. What does Kanetsu stand for? That's the Aerostitch brand, isn't it? It's like a Kanetsu. It sounds like it's Japanese, but it actually just means like, what does it mean? I can't remember what that. It's a joke. Kanetsu heated gear off my battery charging pigtail, mostly on my Ural. That's great. Johnny the Wheel says, nice. Are those Firestones they're riding on? No, in this case, they're actually our stock 450 tire. which are a Duro brand. Jack says, nice shots. Confed says, Firestone, heavy metal version. Oh, yeah, exactly. Jack says, Carl, which of the models that Kanetsu makes do you recommend? Eric says, hello. Eric says, sorry, I'm late. Outlaw, Halcyon 250, Vancouver, Washington. Good to see you, Eric. Keith, I found a wind chill calculator that told me that doing the ton at 0 degrees Fahrenheit exposes you to a real feel of negative 38 degrees Fahrenheit. I just know it was cold both times. So you'd win 100 miles an hour at 0 degrees. Nice. Confed Yang says, is there a recommended RPM to keep it under before it's fully warmed up? That's a really good question. I don't have a reason to say this, but my philosophy on warming a bike up is you don't want to rev it up right when it's first started. So what I like to do is keep the RPMs as high as it will idle without stuttering. So like maybe a little bit higher than that. And then just kind of blip it a little bit around that range. And do that for a minute or two and you should be fine. Then you can rev it up more and warm it up. But it just seems like, that's kind of just how I do it. I don't have any hard evidence, but not revving it super high, especially if your garage is unheated and that bike's been sitting out there and it's like right here at 8 degrees or something, or negative 8 degrees. You do not want to be revving that thing up immediately. That metal is expanding from it's changing shape. It's lots of stuff's happening in that engine, and you want to let it happen as slowly as you can, and kind of let it do its thing and warm up before you apply torque to the motor or really high RPMs. Eric Roseberry, can you go with a thinner oil in the wintertime? Yes, you absolutely can. Our handbook, I believe, has some recommended oil weights and you can just use whatever. Go online. There are recommendations like to go to a lighter weight oil in the winter if you feel like you need to. I don't, but yeah, it would definitely be better to run a lighter oil in the winter. That thicker, it's going to be run thicker in the cold weather, and so it's going to run more like it's supposed to if you run a thinner oil. That's my really dumb explanation of viscosity there for you. Brent says, get a block heater for it. The diesel VW, that is. Yeah. Well, this one, they have the older Volkswagens. You do need to plug them in, but this one's supposed to be okay. I probably should put some kind of heater on it, but it works okay. My Zero performs 30% worse under 40 degrees, says Carl. He's referring to, I'm assuming, a Zero electric motorcycle. And yeah, I believe it. Chris Imperial, shop is 68 degrees with no issues starting my diesel VW, air-cooled VW bus, and my 450. Nice. Well played, Chris. Mark McGee, I've recently had hand surgery doing physical torture. I've been starting it up every day to warm up. Is this okay for it right now? Absolutely. Yeah, nothing wrong with starting a bike up. The best thing you can do for it is run it. So, even better than starting it up would be running it out on the road. Now, the one thing I will caution you, some people like to, start their stuff up and then every day you start it up. Well, what happens is it doesn't have, we were talking about those watts of charging capacity that the engine has. If you start it, that the start takes more juice than running it, obviously, because the engine isn't even running yet and the starter has to crank over. If all you're doing is starting it and then running it for like a minute or two, you're going to run the battery down over time because it just doesn't have time to recharge. If it's on a tender, no big deal. That's fine. But if it's not, keep that in mind that just starting it periodically and letting it idle for a minute or two, the battery voltage is going to drop over time doing that. Okay. Boy, I thought this was going to be a quick session and we're already still going. Dan Radimski, Cycle Gear Hotwire brand is some good heated stuff. Nice. Nicholas G, 100% correct. Oil with low miles but sitting goes bad. Reason why is gasoline is a solvent, and when exposed to the anti-friction additives to the oil will break them down. It's absolutely true. Dan Radimski, I put Oxford heated grips blistering hot on my Honda. I actually have some Oxford, I think they're Oxford, on my KLR, although I didn't install them correctly, and I didn't tighten down one of the clutch hand, and I twisted it and broke the wire off. So heated grips are really nice. I have to say, I never thought I would say that, but they're really nice. Especially, it's not even in like wintertime, like a cold spring morning or fall day. They're really nice. Maybe we'll offer some at some point. It doesn't seem very Rambler, but Nicholas G, my Carb Ninja will stall it with the choke on off if you give it more than a light throttle when cold. Yep, that's good. Higher revs are not as important as fuel delivery. Correct. Kelly Chrisman, do not start your bike and let it run for 10 to 15 minutes and then set it off, because condensation will build up in the engine. It's best to leave it alone or go ride it for longer than 3 minutes. That's actually a really good point. And I sometimes wonder about that with the length of my commute to work. That's like a car talk question. You know, if I drive my car 5 minutes every day, is it worse because it's condensing? And there is some truth to that, Kelly. Like, well, more than some truth. It's absolutely true. When you heat that cold metal up, it will then condense, creating water. And then if you don't ride it long enough for that water to boil off, either from the transmission oil or from the outside, it will collect and freeze and not be great. So yeah, that's a really good point. I think riding the bike, that's kind of one of the reasons I was saying that, like, riding the bike is the best thing you can do for it. And if you starting it every day, yeah, I don't think that's really necessary. And yeah, you might run into some problems there between the battery and condensation. Indeby Metalbug says, does the Halcyon 250 come with a comprehensive manual? And if yes, do you sell them? I guess it depends on what you mean by comprehensive. It comes with a manual. I wrote it. It's pretty good. It goes through most of everything. Yes, we can sell you one. Just give us a call. Kelly Chrisman, shut it off. Oh, I see you're correcting the Rabbit VW is a great little car, says Eric. It sure is. Confed Yank, isn't kickstarting a 250 best ways anyways? Yeah, that's always fun. It's actually really hard on a 250. Cold engines also run rich, and that extra fuel cleans the cylinder walls. This washing will accelerate wear due to residual oil being removed from the walls. Fascinating. I did not know that. That makes a lot of sense, though. Racing the Sun, good to see you guys. Kelly's right. If you don't run it long enough in the cold weather, condensation can build up in the case. Absolutely. Okay, we're going to have to zip here a little bit because this is taking longer than I thought it would. Gear. Let's talk a little bit about riding gear. And what I'm going to focus on this evening, and like I did in that video, which I'll post the link to if I can remember, is not so much expensive motorcycle specific, like this guy in this photograph, he's wearing Climb gear. I actually have a Climb summer jacket, but Climb gear was originally, if I'm not mistaken, developed for the snowmobile market. And it's even more expensive than Aerostitch. And Aerostitch ain't cheap. So what I'm going to go over is winter riding gear that doesn't break the bank. That's and really, I'm not talking about riding your Halcyon for 300 miles in 15-degree weather or worse. I'm talking about enjoying your Janus, rambling on a cold Friday afternoon or Saturday afternoon in the middle of winter when otherwise you'd be sitting in the garage wishing you could. So really the most expensive gear you should already have. You should already have a nice armored jacket that's wind resistant. You should already have a nice helmet. You should already have some riding pants and boots and even some riding gloves. That might be an area where you want to spend a little money on some of the gloves especially, because those are how you connect with the bike. But we'll start off with the basics. And so the basics for me, when it's let's say this is a 25-mile ride in 20-degree weather, you can do that without breaking the bank. And the way I like to start with that would be a good base layer. So if you have the resources or you already have them, a wool, merino wool or wool base layer is the best way you can go. Alternately, Walmart long johns are just fine. Thermal, base layer. Put that on, get yourself warm from the core. Layers are going to be, of course, you can trap the air between the different layers It's the way to go. Then you're going to want to just layer up, and that's going to depend on what kind of gear you're used to. I like to wear long johns, sometimes 2 pairs, with a pair of riding pants that are wind resistant, if at all possible. Although a pair of jeans will you'll get cold, but you'll have fun. And then of course a riding jacket, which most of my riding jackets, a leather jacket, it's going to be very wind resistant. They're developed, that's why they're motorcyclists we're kind of a descendant from pilots, and pilots wore leather bomber jackets, etc., because it's very cold and they're up in the air at higher speed, and that's why a lot of motorcyclists kind of adopted that kit. So your leather jacket, your wax canvas jacket will probably do really well. Underneath it, you can pack a wool sweater, a down jacket, whatever will fit underneath there, and then a gaiter, like a neck gaiter. I don't think I have one here. A neck gaiter or a scarf. We sell some lovely gold top silk scarves, and again, that's something that pilots would have worn for a reason, which was that it was cold, and that's why motorcyclists, the cafe racers would always have a silk scarf. Looks cool and it keeps you warm. And then the last thing, which I always laugh around here, you see motorcyclists, scooter riders. You see these guys out riding their bike, and they've got like a ski mask on, and they've got a scarf around their neck, and they've got gloves on, like fleece gloves on, and like they're trying to keep their head warm. And all you need to do is wear a helmet. I mean, yeah, it's going to get cold eventually, but a helmet not only will protect you if the bike goes down, but it will also keep you warm and keep the wind off your face. So there's many reasons to wear a helmet, and it always just makes me laugh when I see these guys that are just, you can get wear a helmet if you want. I'm not. Anyway, gloves, and that's the one area that you probably will want to find something that's a little warmer than maybe your summer weight riding gloves. I found on sale one time at our local motorcycle shop some snowmobile gloves, and they will keep you warm for a bit. But one thing that you do need to be aware of is that when you're on a bike, like we've said, there's wind, and if it feels like it's cold outside, it's going to feel even colder when you're going faster. Just like one of y'all was talking about, the wind chill at 100 miles an hour is like negative 30 in 0 degree weather. It's going to feel a lot colder. So bundle up. If you're not sweating when you get on the bike, you probably aren't warm enough. Where was I going with that? Oh, gloves. Your fingers are going to get cold. So heated grips are actually a really good option, or some of those hot hands, or battery operated gloves. All these things are so much more readily available today than they were even 10 years ago. You can find some great stuff out there for relatively affordably. So we kind of went over some gear there. Again, I think that there's a lot that can be said for, maybe you don't want to go on a 20, maybe you want to go on a 10-mile ride. Just get out and enjoy the cold weather. And I'm not talking about ice or snow. I'm talking about clear roads, which we have quite a bit of the time up here, even in northern Indiana and Michigan or Wisconsin, and enjoy some cold weather riding, because it's just another opportunity to enjoy that motorcycle, that Janus. Other things that you want to, while we're talking about that, we'll talk about ice and salt. These are two things that will affect your bike, whether you want it to or not. So if you decide that you want to ride in icy conditions and you've got your ice studs on your tires or whatever you've got to figure out how to do that, which I'm not necessarily recommending. Ice is slippery, and it's not necessarily the best environment for a two-wheeled vehicle. I think I've already said that, but it's something to be wary of, especially in corners, and some places have ice, some places don't. It can be really treacherous. So something to really be aware of. Even maybe on a nice day when you go into shaded areas, there may still be some ice out there. So something to keep aware And then salt. Salt is something that unfortunately we put down on our roads, around here at least, and it helps to lower the melting point of the ice. However, it also destroys the road, creating potholes, the enemy of the hardtail halcyon rider, and it corrodes anything that comes anywhere near it. I made the mistake early in my two-wheeled adventures to ride one of my old mopeds in salty conditions, and I did not thoroughly clean it after the fact, and it just corroded the frame, went right through the paint. Any exposed engine cases were damaged. It was not a pretty picture. So I wouldn't really want to see a Janus without being fully with hot water scrubbed after salt. It could do some real damage, and it's hard to get all those little cracks and crevices, the insides of your fenders. So I would stick away from salty conditions. It's just not a good recipe for a vintage car or a pretty motorcycle. And then the last thing is, I did mention this a little bit, like ice in a shaded corner, but debris. Snow melt tends to draw things out. Even it can, something to be aware of, like nails and stuff in the spring, especially after the snow is melted, they'll kind of collect, and it's something you want to keep an eye out for. So be aware of debris, gravel, sand that's been washed out. It often finds itself in like corners, and that's right where you're, have a little bit of cornering speed, and you can wash out in that. I've had that happen to me. I didn't go down or anything, but I noticed that I was losing traction. So you can lose traction in those kinds of scenarios. So it comes with a little extra caution to ride in the winter weather. Be aware that especially shaded areas can be still icy or wet, and there can be debris that you're not ready for. So take your time, take it easy, but get out there and enjoy it. Last thing on the kind of in this area would be the temperature means that think how that affects you and your motorcycle. So for you, well, let's talk about the motorcycle first. The motorcycle, we talked about tire pressure. The tire, the colder the air is, the lower the pressure is. And so checking those tire pressures is important, but also one of the ways that your tires maintain traction with the ground is by warming up. So when you're riding on the road, the contact patch of the tire is flattening, and then as soon as it isn't in contact with the road, it expands back out again. And that, among other things, will raise the temperature of your tires as you ride them. You watch a NASCAR race or any car race, and they'll weave around, and what they're doing is warming up their tires, or a drag race where they spin the wheels. They're warming the rubber up so that it grips the road better. And if it's not warmed up enough, it will not have the same traction as it does, as it's supposed to. And so if you're riding in cold weather, the ground is cold, so the contact that the rubber is making with the ground is colder, and the air is colder, so it's going to take a lot longer for that rubber to warm up. So it is, once again, a really good idea to take your time and just, it's even if there's not ice on the road, it may be a little slicker than you're expecting. And of course, the engine oil, all that stuff, we talked about that. Condensation. Thank you, whoever brought that up. I think that's a great point that I often forget about, and I do worry about sometimes how short my commute is to work. If the engine's I will sometimes ride further to work, well, for many reasons. Take an extra lap, but just to say, I got my oil warmed up. I think you have to live with with your commute distance. But that's a great point. Starting it every day is going to, without running it and letting it reach full temperature, is going to cause condensation. It's already 8 o'clock. And then the other half of that is you and how you react to the cold. So I am definitely here promoting winter riding and enjoying your bike in colder weather. However, it's very important to remember that you are colder than you normally are. And with that cold comes loss of fine motor skills. And in cases, it can also result in loss of attention. And so those are two things to really keep an eye on. If you're going out on let's say your 20-mile ride in the sub-freezing temperatures, it's all fine and well as long as you're in control and enjoying yourself. But one of the ways that you can lose control is not, losing control of the motorcycle, but let's say your fingers start getting really cold, and what happens is you lose fine motor skills. And guess what? You're controlling your clutch, your throttle, and your brake with your hands. And so a lot is going on a motorcycle. And not just that, you also got your turn indicators, horn, all that stuff. So if you start losing those fine motor skills, if your hands start really hurting badly, it is either time to turn around and go home, or it's time to, stop somewhere and grab a coffee, warm up a little bit, and then continue on your way. There's no point in pushing it in those kinds of scenarios because it is dangerous. The other thing that can happen is that you lose concentration. Your body, as it starts to get colder, will start shutting down. Just like it shut down your hands, it will start shutting down other functions as well, including your attention, your intellect, and you will start. You can, in bad cases, you make terrible decisions. They talk about hypothermia would be an extreme example of that. But if you start noticing, what I try and keep an eye out is if I'm losing track of what's going on, my attention's shortening, that's typically, it's either a sign that I'm really enjoying myself and rambling, that's part of rambling, or that I'm actually too cold to be riding a motorcycle. And so in those kinds of scenarios, remember, not only is maybe stopping and warming up in a coffee shop or something like that, or a store, a good idea, but just stopping is going to raise the temperature quite a bit because that wind is no longer on you. So just pulling over, taking a break, maybe warm your hands up on your cylinder. I've done that many times, and then you can continue anywhere. But it's important to be safe. Don't push yourself beyond what your limits are, obviously. So that is kind of a little intro to cold weather riding. I really hope that y'all can get out and enjoy some riding here this winter with your bike. Just because it's cold does not mean that you can't enjoy a motorcycle. Maybe snow and ice, salt might be a good time to read a good book on motorcycling or something like that, or or hang out on a live stream. Drink a whiskey and hang out on a live stream. So, all right. Well, that's about all I have for this evening. Let's check the comments, and we can get on with our evening. Bugman22. I used to race up in Michigan, Albright Shores, I think. I'm taking it, you mean ice racing? Confed Yank. That's why, even though I have short drive to gym, I let car idle longer before taking off, mainly to allow the motor to fully warm up. Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot still, even with modern cars, to be said for letting a car warm up. But I don't know the specifics. It can't hurt to let a car come up to temperature. It's a good idea. NW Metalbug used to buy insulated flight suits from military surplus. They work great. Yeah, that's actually, when I was in the Boy Scouts, we used to use the military polypropylene long underwear. That is some warm stuff. And you used to be able to, I think you probably still can get it at Army surplus stores. It's tan and it has a zip-up neck, and you can get tops and bottoms, and super warm. I bet you can get a set for quite affordably, much less than merino wool. Nicholas G says, check your dipstick if concerned about condensation in your oil. It will appear as white film on the stick. Usually condensation is removed through your crankcase vent because it boils water off. Yeah. And if you do have water in your engine, it's a good idea to bring it up to full temperature and let it boil off, which is exactly right. Absolutely. Confed Yank, I have done surplus wool military clothing. Yeah. Also, when I was in the Boy Scouts, I had wool pants that I got Army surplus. They were great. Nicholas G. Oh, wait. Dan Radimski, I have good gear. I hated my Aerostitch Falstaff waxed cotton. It was water resistant and cold all the time. I gave it away. Well, you should have given it to me. I like this. Although I think if I got all Aerostitch, I would probably get the Gore-Tex because it's kind of weird that I've asked them actually about like how waterproof is the wax canvas stuff. Nicholas G. Oil doesn't boil off. Oil level will stay. Oil can, yep, absolutely. The oil gets hot, but the water will boil off. Oil level will stay. Oil can go out of your crankcase valve under high RPMs due to ionization of oil or misting. That occurs under high RPM. You may not actually be burning oil. Yep, all of that is so true. You are absolutely right, Nicholas. Johnny the Wheel, agree, Dan. I love my Revit two-piece suit. Oh, he says, Dan says, I have Revit gear now. Now I have Revit gear. Revit is that Dutch brand, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. That's cool. I wouldn't write off Aerostitch just because you didn't like their wax canvas, though. That's on my wish list as a Aerostitch one-piece suit. Johnny the Wheel, ridden at below 32 all the time at speed. Yep. Joe 1842 says, like World War I pilot, lol. Exactly. And World War II pilot. Absolutely. Or in some cases, more recent. Confed-Yank, speaking from personal experience, a full helmet certainly keeps my head warm, even if rest of my gear lacks it. Yeah, and there are things you can do to increase your warmth. You can wear a thin beanie or a thin balaclava. It was a really, really my buddy Jesse rides with a wool balaclava under his helmet all the time, and it's a great way to make sure that your neck stays warm. That's really, for me, that is the place that will, with regular gear, long johns, good gloves, helmet, your neck is the place that gets absolutely cold, and it's really a horrible feeling to have that when it really gets cold on your neck. So a balaclava with a long hood on it, or a scarf, or one of those neck gaiters. The nice thing about the neck gaiter is you can put it around your neck, pull it up, and then I put my helmet on, and then I strap the neck strap over the gaiter or the scarf, and then you can pull it down, and you've got a good neck covering. It's important. Johnny the Wheel, don't forget balaclava or neck gaiter. Yes, absolutely. Yep, I'm catching up here. The gold top lined gloves you sell are awesome. Yeah, those are really warm. Check out the lined gloves, and we sell some that are gauntlets too. Johnny the Wheel says, I put mine at about 20 psi or less in 30 degrees. I can see that being a good idea, I guess. So you're increasing your contact patch, I guess, by doing that. Sort of like what you would do off-road. Maybe it bends the rubber more and heats it up better. I don't know. Jack Coleman says, Johnny the Wheel, spot on, neck gaiter a must, or a good scarf. You all know it. Or a long beard. Yes, there we go. Brent says, speed and cold weather combine to increase dehydration as well. Be sure to drink more water. Yeah, you're breathing out a lot of water. Johnny the Wheel, always do a visioning session before heading out or along the way of coming home safely and rolling back into the garage with a smile on your face. Nice. Not sure exactly what that means, but I think I can understand. Old school putts, scratch that. You're an animal, Richard. Been there, done it. A cold ride, not enjoyable for me. Well, you don't have to. That's the thing. I mean, this is totally like everything rambling. Rambling is an activity that we choose to do. It wouldn't be rambling if we didn't choose to do it. And it probably wouldn't be rambling if it wasn't a little bit weird or out there. Johnny the Wheel, thanks for this, Richard. Absolutely, you're welcome. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for all the advice. Have a good night, all. See you later, Mark. Certainly find a heated business. Grab a drink, warm up, and have a good one, y'all. And Richard, enjoy a good fireplace side reading. Kino's Journey. Yeah, well, I almost bought it today. I'm on the journey there. Chris Imperial, quick update on 450 accessories. You're almost ready to release. Lots of them. Maybe next week I'll go into a more detailed breakdown of where we stand with all the upgrades. Nolan Ubelhor, Can't wait to get my scrambler from you guys. So excited. I'll definitely be winter riding. Awesome. I take it you're getting a Griffin. Jack Coleman, Polypro is great. Yeah. Jack Coleman, good night all. Great episode. Hi, Jack Coleman. How you like your new ride? Old school. Gators. Yes, gators are also a very stylish way to roll. Peace out, Ramblers from Old School. Good night all from Joel. Good night. One more thought from Old School. Richard loved the new jacket patch. Took the HD off my vintage jean jacket and put it on. The colors are great. Very cool. Awesome. Very good. I love to hear it. Well, thank you all. Everybody who's been so active in the comment threads. I hope this was valuable. Next week we'll take a look at some more of the upgrades in a little more detail, kind of get an update on that, and go from there. For now, thank you all very much for hanging out with me here this evening for the 26th Ramblestream, and I will catch you next week, next Monday night at 7 p.m. for Ramblestream number 27. Thank you all very much, and good night.